I just figured you're also going to be in the intro and outro for this, so I should probably record you actually working too.
Assisting.
Spoiler alert, he is not, in fact, in the intro and outro. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle, and this is Elle's Reptiles. This week we are doing a video that is kind of an update in preparation for the Reptile Room tour of 2022. This is the last set of tanks that we're building. So today we are putting together the tanks that will house a corn snake, Zaz, the bearded dragon, and both of the leopard geckos. The animals are not going to be going into the tanks today because they're each going to get their own setup videos. I know you guys have been waiting for a bearded dragon bioactive tank for forever now, and it is almost time. It's been so long. I am so sorry. Today we're gonna be setting up these awesome tanks and hoods from Custom Reptile Habitats. Thank you so much to Custom Reptile Habitats for sending me these hoods. Full transparency, I did pay for these tanks. These tanks were not sent to me for free. The hoods were, the tanks were not. So yeah, this week we're just gonna be setting up those tanks and then comparing the different ways that you can build tank backgrounds. Without further ado, let's get started. Just ignore this hole in my carpet. This was made by my German Shepherd when he was a puppy. Okay, so we're just going to speed through the actual building process because I've already done a video building this tank, building the 6 foot. The 3 foot was a lot easier and so much faster. You just put the pieces where they go. This thing is labeled fantastically. Every piece is labeled. It's absolutely amazing. The hardest part is just putting that black seal in. That is just the part that I struggle with the most just because it takes so much effort and I always get hot and sweaty and it's a whole thing. Moving right on to the background. So this first 3 foot background, we're going to just do a simple pre-bought Universal Rocks background. This could be done with any pre-bought background. It could be the Universal Rocks one. It could be the kind that you get from PetSmart. It can be whatever. We just silicone it in and we're good to go. Hands down the easiest way to make a background. But when I was buying all these tanks, I did think that it'd be kind of fun to try out their DIY universal background kit, which comes with these 2 flat pieces. It comes with the rocks, it comes with a tube of silicone, and it comes with the sand painting kit. Filling in the pieces. So doing this is pretty simple. This kit is actually intended to cover multiple walls of the tank. However, we're just going to use it for the back wall and we're going to use the leftover pieces to kind of piece together a DIY 6 foot background here in a little bit. So we're just measuring it, siliconing it down. Since it does come shipped in a box, they're not completely flat. So I did use some weights to weigh it down to flatten it out overnight. And then I went and grabbed some spray foam. I did not know how to sand paint, so I followed the Snake Discovery video on how they did it. Okay, so for this one, we're going to trim this away and we're going to attempt to use this. They kind of cut it away. Pulled up my slip arm. Ow. And then they said that they used a very thin layer of tan silicone. I do not have tan silicone, so we're going to try to coat it in just a thin layer of clear silicone and pack this in to see how this aspect of this kit works. One huge thing about using clear silicone that is the reason that I prefer using black silicone is because you can't really see where it's been spread. And once that was done, I just opened all the little baggies of sand and mixed them together. I don't know if you're supposed to mix them or if you're supposed to just kind of put them together in stages. I mixed them and I think it turned out pretty okay. Too much. Too much. So then we're going to take this. We're going to kind of... Then we're going to sand paint. Sand painting does not mean like painting back and forth with a paintbrush. What you're actually doing is just kind of pressing the sand into the silicone. For this next background, this is basically going to be the same thing as that first 3 foot tank, where this is a pre-made Universal Rocks background. However, the difference here is that this is going to the tank that is going to house the corn snake, and if you see on the top and bottom there's kind of gaps where it's wavy, and that's just not going to be okay with the corn snake because he is going to get behind it and then it's going to be a whole situation where I have to tear it out and try to help him out. So Instead, what we're going to do is just fill those gaps with spray foam so that we don't have to worry about it, and fill the edges with silicone. I use black silicone for this. I would advise using clear if you were to do this, because you can definitely see the black. But I use black and then put a sand cocoa fiber mixture over it to attempt to hide it. I actually did this before I did the sand painting one, or else I would have just used the leftover sand paint. Okay, so next we're going to do just a DIY background. Instead of just doing all spray foam, we're going to do something a little bit different and basically just take scraps of old background pieces. Some of this is Universal Rock, some of them is from Animal Tracks, my local pet store. The big tree branch things are from Animal Tracks, and they are not Universal Rocks, but I don't know what the company is that makes them. Anyways, we are just gonna take a bunch of these pieces and see what we can make. Okay, cool, love that. So I basically just took all the flat pieces, silicone them down, and I'm spray foaming around them. So we are still going to be using the spray foam silicone cocoa fiber method, but I just thought it would look a little different if I used a bunch of random pieces in there as well. Obviously, if you want to do something like this, you don't need to have a bunch of fake trees. You can use real branches, and you can use real pieces of wood or even real rocks. So once all of that is dry, you just start shaving away the spray foam and just get it into the shape that you want. And then start siliconing over all that, and make sure you wear gloves because this is super, super, super messy. Spread all the silicone around. I did use black for this one, and it did end up looking good for this one because I used cocoa fiber. This is actually a mixture of cocoa fiber and sand as well, just a lot lighter on the sand. This process is long, and you should also probably wear a mask because I inhaled a lot of this and it kind of hurt, so wear a mask. Those little sides are going to be scraped off as soon as it dries up. But I think it came out pretty cool. All right, so before we can get this thing all stacked up, we need to build the hoods. I only got 2 hoods instead of 3 because these tanks are tall. So these are super, super easy to build. They literally took 20 minutes each. You will need a mallet for this. Mallet. This thing has seen better days. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna find the 2 front pieces. Again, everything is labeled. It makes life so easy, but just make sure that the 2 sides are lined up appropriately, and then you just line it up and use the mallet to hammer it together. Takes a little bit of effort to get these together, and it may I don't know if you can see that. There's peeling a little bit. That's normal since they fit so closely together, so tightly together. Go ahead and set that aside, and then find the parts labeled for the back and do the exact same thing. Hey, Mom. Hey, what's up?
That's up to you.
Hammer. And then you're just gonna find the appropriate bars. You're gonna know how to line these bars up based on where the little notches are. These are labeled. The bottom side is the one with just 1 and a flat end, and the top side is one with 2. So we can just line it all up, mallet it in, hammer it in. I don't know. Put it all together and you're good to go. And we are already at the side panels, meaning we're almost done. The large panels go in the top there, and the smaller panels go on the sides. There is not a panel for the back because that is where the cords will go through, and it's also going to allow some of the heat to escape. And then, of course, we're going to put that front panel on. This is super easy to line up because you're going to make sure that the top middle bar lines up with the area that there's a middle bar where the large panels are. The other pieces can all basically be put to the side until you are ready to get it up onto the tank, which will happen very soon. So now, ta-da! There's cords everywhere because my chameleon tank is sitting right there because she's just gonna have to sit on the floor for a couple days until I can get the animals in here. Anyway, this is here. It may look a little different because I painted the outside black so that way it matches better. The inside's still gonna be gray. That's just, I'm not doing more work. See, you will need to drill holes in the corners of your enclosure. The 3/16 inch in the top corner. So this is the bottom enclosures. We have a 3/16 drill bit. So next I am drilling holes in those top 4 corners of the tank and the bottom corners of the other tanks so that I can stack them. This is not something that you need to do unless you're worried about kids or pets or anything like that knocking them over, or if you're stacking them super high. So this is something that I definitely needed to do. Make sure if you do drill these holes in your tanks, you do it centered so it'll line up correctly. The top gets 3/16 holes and the bottoms of the tanks get 5/8 holes, and the hoods already have holes drilled into them. And then remember those pieces that you saved from earlier? Those are going to go in now just to provide the tanks that go on top of this a flat surface to sit on. Everything in this set went together fantastically, except for we did have a tiny problem with the top 2 3-foot tanks where the screws where they touch each other were getting in the way. So we just kind of took one of the screws out of one of the tops and everything seems structurally okay still. So that's what we're going with. It does look like there's a gap at the top of this and it doesn't look like it from where I'm sitting, but if that happens, you can just kind of use your mallet and hammer things until you get it all straightened out. The doors come in separate boxes. Actually get very thick glass doors. Look at that thing. And the fact that I have this on the top shelf is terrifying. I went ahead and put the glass doors into the 3-foot tanks just because it's glass and I didn't want that sitting around my house. But the 6-foot tanks have acrylic doors, so I did not put those on yet. Those doors are going to stay off until after I put the substrate in. These actually have 4 doors each, so they will go in. And for the humidity and temperature, they provided this little thing, which this can go down into the tank. But this is very cool because it'll actually clip in to this once I get the battery in. Little clips. Just take these off. Get the battery in. And you just put it wherever you want. And this is it. This is the stack all put together with the backgrounds in. Hello. Again, I didn't get that top hood because it is too tall. It would be touching the air conditioning unit up there and we don't want that. But these top 2 tanks will house the leopard geckos. This next one is for the corn snake. I figured that he'd really like slithering around all those little rocky crevices. And this bottom tank will be for Zaz. And that is it. Again, thank you so much to Custom Reptile Habitats for sending me these hoods. You guys know that I have been using their 6-foot tank for a year, 2 years. I love their tanks. They're fantastic. They have stood up very well to a blue tongue skink that scratches and digs nonstop. These things come flat shipped, so they are very cheap to ship. Absolutely love these tanks. Definitely make sure to stay tuned in the upcoming weeks for a how to build a bioactive bearded dragon tank and bioactive leopard gecko tanks, 2 of them. Naturalistic corn snake tank and the reptile room tour. Don't know what order those are coming in, but they are coming. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shoutout is here, and this week's subscriber shoutout is here. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and following and sharing and commenting and all that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like socials. Okay. All right, note to self. We're doing the DIY.
I'll be like this, and then you can do one like you're like this or something. Just using this just as an example. This is just one more background option that you now have to play with.